Why Western society is failing by going soft on kids, the case for strict parenting and yelling. Let's be real for a second. When was the last time you saw a well-behaved kid in public? Not a tantrum, not an argument with their parents, but a child who actually listened, followed rules, and understood boundaries. If you're shaking your head, you're not alone, and there's a reason for it. Somewhere along the way, Western society decided that being strict with kids was outdated, even harmful. Now, everyone's talking about gentle parenting and positive discipline, while our classrooms, homes, and public spaces fill up with children who act like they run the world. But here's the controversial truth. Strict parenting, boundaries, and yes, sometimes even yelling, are critical to raising well-rounded, resilient kids. And the Western world? It's on a dangerous path by going soft. If you're still reading, I promise you won't want to miss why sticking to rules, enforcing consequences, and stepping away from this permissive parenting trend might be the most important thing we can do for the next generation. Ready to dive in? The real reason boundaries matter. Think back to when you were a kid. Remember when getting grounded or losing TV privileges was a big deal? Those weren't just punishments. They were lessons in consequences, respect, and self-control. Today, however, many parents hesitate to set firm boundaries, worried they'll damage their child's self-esteem or stifle their creativity. But here's the truth that no one wants to talk about. Kids thrive on structure. Discipline equals emotional strength. Children who grow up with clear boundaries aren't just more well-behaved, they're emotionally stronger. When you tell a child no, you're not being cruel. You're preparing them for a world that won't always give them what they want. Learning to cope with disappointment and frustration makes kids more resilient, not less. Yelling isn't always a bad thing. Here's a controversial take. Yelling, when used sparingly, works. No one's saying you should yell at your kids constantly, but when used strategically, it sends a clear message that certain behaviors are unacceptable. Let's be honest, sometimes kids need that verbal wake-up call. You don't negotiate with a toddler running toward traffic, you yell, "Stop!" The downside of going soft. So why has Western society shifted away from strict parenting? The answer lies in a well-meaning but deeply flawed belief that being soft on kids fosters emotional well-being. Parents want to be their child's friend. They want to give their kids more freedom, thinking that constant negotiation and avoiding discipline will make for happier, healthier children. But the result is the exact opposite. We're raising a generation of entitled adults. When children grow up without rules, they start to believe they're the exception to every rule. We're seeing the consequences of this permissive parenting style in schools and workplaces. These kids, now young adults, can't handle criticism, struggle with authority, and expect to coast through life without putting in the effort. The negotiation trap. In an attempt to be understanding, many parents fall into the trap of negotiating every rule with their kids. But here's the problem. Life doesn't work that way. Not every rule is up for debate, and bending every boundary sends the message that children can manipulate the system. The more parents back down, the more kids push, until eventually, the child holds the power in the household. If this sounds extreme, ask any teacher. Schools today are dealing with kids who have never heard the word no at home. They expect to do as they please because they've never been held accountable. What's the result? Disruption, disrespect, and a complete lack of discipline, all because parents were too afraid to set limits. The hard truth: emotional fragility is on the rise. The irony of the gentle parenting movement is that its well-intentioned methods are backfiring in a big way. By trying to shield kids from the harsh realities of life, disappointment, failure, and consequences, parents are inadvertently raising children who can't handle any of it. Anxiety and depression are skyrocketing among young people, and it's not just because of social media or technology. A huge part of this crisis is the result of kids not being taught how to cope with real-world challenges. Permissive parenting breeds fragility. When a child has never been told no or faced a real consequence for their actions, they don't learn how to deal with adversity. Life's first real hardship, a failed exam, a job rejection, or even a difficult relationship, hits them like a truck. They haven't built the emotional muscles necessary to handle failure because they've been coddled their entire lives. It's not tough love that's harmful, it's the lack of it. Respect is eroding. Remember when kids respected authority? That's fading fast. A child who is never disciplined at home is unlikely to respect authority figures like teachers, bosses, or even law enforcement. When boundaries don't exist, chaos takes over, and we're already seeing the effects of this in classrooms and public spaces. Entitled, disrespectful behavior isn't just a parenting problem, it's becoming a societal one. Why strict parenting, and yes, sometimes yelling, is the solution? So what's the solution? Should we all go back to yelling at our kids 24/7? Of course not. But there's a huge difference between occasional, strategic yelling and total parental collapse. The real solution is balance, firm boundaries, consistent consequences, and yes, sometimes raising your voice when it's necessary. Boundaries equals security. Children feel secure when they know what to expect. Rules provide a framework for understanding the world, and when parents enforce those rules, kids feel safe. Contrary to popular belief, strict parenting doesn't breed rebellion. It breeds respect. Kids are smart. They know when their parents are setting limits out of love and concern for their well-being. Yelling gets their attention when used right. Let's face it, sometimes kids don't listen until you raise your voice. That doesn't make you a bad parent. It makes you a responsible one. Yelling is like any other parenting tool. It's effective when used in moderation and when the situation calls for it. A raised voice signals urgency and seriousness, which is necessary in moments when a child's behavior needs to change immediately. The bigger picture, society, is at stake. The consequences of this shift toward permissiveness go beyond individual families. A society that fails to teach its children discipline, respect, and resilience is a society heading for trouble. We're already seeing this in the rise of entitlement, disrespect for authority, and emotional fragility among younger generations. If we don't course correct soon, the very fabric of society could unravel. Bringing back strict parenting isn't about going backward. It's about preparing children for a future where they will face challenges, rules, and consequences. It's about ensuring that the next generation grows up to be responsible, respectful, and emotionally resilient adults. So is yelling the secret to perfect parenting? No. But enforcing boundaries, being firm, and yes, sometimes raising your voice, could be the wake-up call Western society desperately needs. For the sake of our children and our future, it's time to stop being afraid of being strict. Kids aren't as fragile as we think they are. And society? Well, that might be a different story. Keep the boundaries strong, and let's raise a generation that can handle what life throws at them. If you found this topic thought-provoking, or you have your own take on strict versus soft parenting, we'd love to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think today's kids need more discipline, or is there a better approach? Let's get the conversation going! And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content on parenting, society, and everything in between. We've got more deep dives like this coming your way, so make sure to turn on notifications to never miss a new upload. Thanks for watching!